Hey, this is Kampai Cam, and in this video I'm going to be taking you on one of my favourite Osaka day trips. Starting in the city, we're going to be heading east and into the heart of Japan's ninja past to walk the Akame 48 Falls. This trail follows a long gorge studded with spectacular waterfalls and is a relaxing way to spend a few hours. And if you want a bit more variety, you can take an optional forest trail for a short hike up and into the mountains overlooking the falls and the village below. This is a great day out whether you're travelling solo, spending time with friends, or you have kids in tow. Let's get into it. The Akame 48 Falls are located in Mie Prefecture and aren't far from the city of Iga. This part of Japan is the historic home of the ninja, and in fact the famous martial art was developed by the Iga Ryu school. Supposedly, the gorge we're about to walk through was once used as a ninja training ground, and the locals really play this aspect up. There are even ninja training courses your kids can do while you're in the area. I visited in early spring, and while there weren't any wild cherry blossoms or azaleas blooming just yet, the weather was mild and the scenery still spectacular. I'd probably avoid going during the hottest months of summer, but other than that, each season has its own appeal. That said, if you're there at the peak of cherry blossom season or when the autumn leaves are at their most brightly coloured, you'll likely be fighting through some pretty big crowds. It may not be so bad if you avoid weekends or public holidays, but given how nice it is in the off-season, I'd much prefer to skip the seasonal beauty and have the place largely to myself. Getting to the start of the trail from Osaka or even Nara is straightforward. I started out at Osaka Namba Station, then changed at Tsuruhashi Station to get a rapid express on the Kintetsu Osaka line. This train takes an hour and goes through an interesting mix of urban centres, towns nestled in foothills, and lush greenery. You'll get off at Akameguchi, a tiny little station with only one exit. The bus stop you need is to your left as you come out, and there's no mistaking it because there's a whole queuing system along with information about the falls. The ride is about 10 minutes and drops you a short walk from the beginning of the trail. As you walk towards the falls, you'll see the Akame Natural History Museum and Tourist Info Centre on the right. This is a good place to pick up a map and is also the check-in location for the ninja training experience. On that, these 90-minute sessions only happen twice a day on select days and include activities like going up training, traversing ropes, wall climbing, and something to do with tanuki, I guess. Not to mention throwing shuriken, shooting arrows, and blowing darts. It also takes you through a trick house with hidden passages and places to hide. Anyone aged 4 and up can take part, and the prices include ninja costume rental and admission to the Akame 48 walk. You'll definitely want to book ahead if this is of interest, so use the link in the description. The beginning of the walk is a little further, so go through the car park and follow the path, and you'll soon reach the ticket office. Tickets cost 1,000 yen for adults and 500 yen for children, and entry to the Akame Falls Aquarium is included with admission, so you could learn a little about the local ecosystem, including the river's most famous inhabitant, the giant salamander, ahead of your walk. Once you set off, you'll be following the Taki River as it winds its way through a beautiful gorge. It's an out and back walk and around 3.3 kilometers one way if you go all the way to the end. If you take your time, you're looking at about a 3 to 4 hour round trip, but I'll show you a fun hiking detour on the way back that will make it a little longer. More on that in a bit. So, why is this path called the Akame 48? Akame means red eye.
You're the worst character ever, Charlie.
I know.
And this part of the name comes from a mystic named Enno Gyoja who founded Japanese mountain asceticism more than 1300 years ago. Legend says he was standing beneath a waterfall in this area when he encountered the deity Fudo Mio riding a red-eyed ox. And the 48 part? That's not actually the specific number of falls, but it's related to both the fact that there are many falls, as well as referencing the 48 vows of Amida Buddha. The area has been considered a sacred place since ancient times, with people making pilgrimages to practice asceticism or to worship. It's also thought that visiting all the falls will make wishes come true. At a quiet time of year, this walk is relaxing and meditative, with pristine water and lush surroundings. The ever-present sound of running streams and crashing falls are like a sound bath for your ears, soothing and all-encompassing. There's also an impressive amount of verticality. This is a ravine after all, so it's not just about looking at the falls, but enjoying being enclosed by the trees and rock faces that tower above. You should enjoy this stroll at your own pace, taking advantage of the many places to sit and admire the view. There's no danger of getting lost as the trail is well signposted. As there are so many falls, I won't try and call them all out, but will instead briefly introduce you to the 5 largest and most famous. First are the Fudo Falls, named after the aforementioned deity Fudo Myo. People have been coming to worship here for a long time, but until midway through the Meiji era they weren't allowed to go any further along the path than this point. We're going to continue walking for a full 3 additional kilometres. At the 800 metre mark is Senju Falls, which is named after Senju Kannon, a Buddhist goddess with 1,000 hands. Supposedly this is because of the way the water splits into many different paths as it descends to the pool below. Shortly beyond the Senju Falls is Nunobiki Falls, with water falling from a height of 30 metres in a thin stream, and so named because the flow looks like a strip of cloth, Nunobiki being Japanese for stretching of cloth. Kobe's famous Nunobiki Falls unsurprisingly have a very similar look. The focused force of the water here has hollowed out the basin below to a depth of 30 metres. It's a solid walk to the 2,600 metre mark for the next of the 5 famous falls, but there's no shortage of gorgeous vistas to enjoy along the way. When you do finally arrive, you'll find the Ninai Falls, a waterfall that splits into 2 streams around a massive boulder. This is often said to be the most picturesque of all the waterfalls in this area. The last of the 5 is Biwa Falls, which is a few hundred metres further along and has a pool that's a rich indigo hue. Some sources say it's named after the biwa fruit, others the instrument of the same name. Both are teardrop shaped, so presumably the cascading water is thought to have a similar curve. The course ends a little further along at Gankutsu Falls, and while you can simply turn around and follow it all the way back, I definitely recommend only retracing your footsteps until you reach the path to Mount Nagasaka. The entrance to this path is almost halfway back to the start of the trail, but offers a great way to get the blood pumping before you head back to civilization. What does the sign say? In essence, it says that you shouldn't do this hike alone. I chose to ignore this and started up the trail. You're looking at about 2 hours to do this hike, but it can certainly be done faster. I had just under an hour and a half to get back to town for the last bus when I started along it, but was able to complete it with plenty of time to spare. Mind you, I did wind up jogging for a lot of it. The hardest part is the first 500 metres as you're climbing a pretty steep slope as you gain a couple of 100 metres of altitude up into the forest. But from then on, the terrain is smooth with steady ups, downs and sections of flat. There are a couple of points with nice views as you wend your way along, giving you not only a vantage point over the town, but also across to the impressive mountains framing the scene. Eventually you hit long sections of downhill, then end up on a road about 500 metres from the bus stop and can easily get back into town. So that's the Akame 48, an attraction that's close to Osaka but off the radar for a lot of Western tourists. I'd highly recommend checking it out the next time you're in Kansai, and I'd also highly recommend ending your day with a good feed and a good soak. Personally, I headed back to Osaka for an early sushi dinner, then popped by Yudokoro Abenobashi, a nice little bathhouse that has 2 saunas, a bunch of different baths, and is tattoo friendly. For more on Abenobashi and other tattoo friendly onsen in Osaka, you can check out my video on the subject. And before you go, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I promise they won't bother you, I only publish every so often. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with 30 seconds of serenity.